Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks across North America. Welcome to another fun-filled and action-packed and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host, meteorologist DT from weatherist.com, the commander of chaos, the colonel of confusion, the captain of catastrophe. It's 7 o'clock here in the east, 4 o'clock West Coast time. I know I was supposed to have this thing out 4:30, 5 o'clock, but the weather was so nice here in the east, I just had to get out and do stuff. Anyway, lots to talk about, even though it's September 28th, not much going on in the tropics. It looks kind of quiet. People like saying, what is there to talk about in the weather? But actually, there's quite a bit. So let's get right to it and see what we have. In this edition, we'll talk about the last look at the hurricane season 2013. Nothing's happening, and that's symptomatic of the hurricane season itself, and there's a reason for that. And then we'll talk about October 2013. It looks mild and fairly dry over the Midwest and the East, especially the East Coast. And then the snow cover buildup developing over in portions of Siberia as well. So let's get right to it. Now, this is a chart which I've showed you many times before. Represents the 200 millibar vertical velocity anomalies. Fancy weather term. What does it mean? Brown stuff, sinking air. Why is that important? Remember, thunderstorms develop by going up in the atmosphere, right? Up this way. See? There's your thunderstorm. But this is all sinking air in here. All the brown stuff is negative or sinking energy, sinking air, which means the thunderstorms get crushed. Now, the green stuff is what you want to see. The problem is that all hurricane season long, the green stuff looks very strong coming out of the western Pacific. By the time it reaches the west coast of North America, it collapses. It's gone. It falls apart. And as a result, we've had very little of that big, strong green stuff to help develop thunderstorms and tropical depressions into tropical storms and hurricanes. By the way, those sound effects, they're optional. But anyway. So that's one of the problems we've had all hurricane season, and this is continuing. This is going to take us into, this is September 27th. As you can see, if the green stuff holds together, it won't get into the main development region of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, the tropical Atlantic, until the first week of October, if then. And that's assuming, like I said, it holds together. It might not. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's take a look at the current pattern. Well, we can see a couple of important features here. Here's our huge upper low in the Gulf of Alaska, driving the heavy rain to the west coast of Canada and the Pacific Northwest. Right in here, you can see that. And then here's our ridge right here. You can see this. And look, there's a positive NAO. So this is the current pattern right now, September 28th, Saturday midday in the afternoon hours. And we can see that black line represents a short wave which is going over the top of the ridge. It's a fairly weak cold front that will be falling apart. Okay. Next, we'll take a look here. Now, this is a large-scale shot of the same image. Okay, this is just a hemispheric shot. The one before was North America. This is a hemispheric projection. And we can see some important features here. The key feature I want to point out here, is this one right here. Let me get my marker out here. You see this upper low right here? This feature, along with the upper low here, is causing a funnel to develop, a compression right across the northern Pacific. You see the yellow line that I drew here? See this yellow line stuff? That represents very strong Pacific jet energy. The winds are really strong here and howling, and they're being compressed because of this ridge which has developed right here. See the ridge? That ridge is being pushed northward because of the upper low northwest of Hawaii. So, let's do it again to make sure everybody sees it. This feature is pushing this feature north. This is coming south, and the winds here are being compressed. Howling into here, all the way across the northern Pacific into the west coast of North America. And here's our ridge over the eastern United States as well, as you can see. And there's the positive NAO. Got it? Okay. So that's currently what's going on. Now, if we take a look at it, this is the pattern from September 22nd. And you can see the same sort of thing. The ridge was in the middle portion of the country, and we had a huge ridge over Western Europe. But there is a huge upper low, as you can see right here. You call it up, you can see it. In the Gulf of Alaska, same thing. There's our trough here. Okay, and we can see the winds beginning to pick up a little bit in this whole area. All right, good. Then finally, this is September 25th, 26th, I should say, and there's our trough on the west coast, an upper low there over the Pacific Northwest. The ridge is now moving towards the east coast, and there's a huge upper low again developing in eastern Siberia near Japan and Kamchatka. So very persistent pattern, big upper low, constantly over eastern Siberia. Notice what's going on here in Russia, by the way. You'll take a look at that in a minute. Big, huge system here in western Russia and eastern Europe. Okay. Now, this is an enlargement of the current pattern, just so you can see how it has evolved from here to this. And then we go on to the next one. Now, this is the actual European here from this afternoon. And we can see, looking at it with a bit more detail. Here's our upper low. Remember we just talked about that? Okay, look at these howling lines. Look at these lines crashing in across the northern Pacific into British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest. Monster system here, very strong, 960s, 970s. Wham, wham, cold front after cold front. There's a little tropical system which is going to do nothing. And then the eastern United States looks mild and dry. This is day 5. We can see the cold front coming in from the British Columbia. There's the low over Lake Superior. The cold front's here, getting some rain in the Midwest. There it is, the trough going through like this. Systems are moving. Here's another one. There's another one. They're moving 1, 2, 3 right across the country. So no surprises there. Pretty easy forecast. And then day 10, what do we have? A big high over the East Coast. Pacific air right here. See it? And the high does this. It moves off the coast by October 8th and 9th and 10th. Southwest winds coming up, more mild conditions. No cold air anywhere east of the Rockies at all, even all the way out to the west coast. All the cold air is way up in here. So this, you're thinking, well, that's a terrible start to the cold pattern. Well, yeah, it is, but don't get excited, folks. It's October, okay? You know, October doesn't mean nothing. That's really what it comes down to. Okay. Now, this is October 8th and 9th. This is the European on the left-hand side, GFS on the right-hand side. And again, both models are showing the same sort of thing. Let's take a look-see. With a key feature, boom, Pacific, polar vortex here, polar vortex here. See it? And again, look at the howling winds right in here. Look at this, crashing towards, from Siberia across the northern Pacific to the west coast of Canada and Pacific Northwest. Same sort of pattern. Big ridge on the eastern and northwest Atlantic, but this is a mild pattern. This is a Pacific air-dominated pattern. That's what this is. The MJO is very weak. So some of the models kill it, as you can see, by October 12th. Some of the models move into day 7. So if it moves into day, if it stays in phase 6 or 7, what does this mean? Well, as you can see, if the MJO is a driving factor, it's very weak. It may not be. It means wet conditions here and here. Very dry on the East Coast. You see that? Very dry on the East Coast. And then very warm here and here. And getting a little cold in the upper plains and the northern Midwest. But outside of that, it's not a very big mover here. These are the sea surface temperature maps. Now, this is August 25th. We can see how warm it was, the ocean water temperatures were here in the Atlantic, in the eastern Pacific. See how warm it was? Now, if we look at the current one, we see some cooling developing right in here. Now, why? Well, what's happening is, here's the cooling. You can see it right in there. See it? What's happening is, remember, we have this big upper low, this vortex right here, which is constantly driving winds like this across the Pacific, and that's producing upwelling, so the water temperatures are beginning to drop there a little bit. So that's what it's showing. Now, the issue is whether or not that's temporary or whether it's going to be a new feature as we move into October or November. Now let's take a look at the upper air maps. This is day 5, the European ensemble. Very clear, very obvious here where we can see here's our trough on the west coast. There's the ridge, you see that? And there's the big polar vortex right up in here. You can see it right here. There's another ridge here and a big upper low over western Russia and eastern Europe. And there's the one in the Gulf of Alaska. And if we clear this map and then we go to, this is the GFS of day 5 as well. Very similar, strong model agreement. Again, look at the big ridges in the Pacific Ocean here and here. Let me call it up so you can see it. Look at the big ridges here and here. And that's producing a very strong jet stream running right like this, slamming in the west coast. Here's our ridge on the east coast. Very warm pattern. So, and again, let me tell you, at the end of this week on the East Coast, it's going to get in the 80s for a lot of people. So we are going to see a return to summer here a little bit. So don't be surprised if that happens. Okay. And then the day 10 European ensembles, this is a hemispheric shot. Again, what's the driving feature here? Strong Pacific jet, as you can see. And then look at this. There's the polar vortex here and then here in the Gulf of Alaska. Well, now if this was the heart of winter, this would be the end of winter. This would be a very bad map for the winter. But it's not. It's October, so it doesn't mean anything. So don't freak out over it. Okay. And this is the day 10 European enlarged. And again, look at the howling winds coming here. The black lines I drew in right over here. You can see them. Look at these lines I drew in here, showing the moisture slamming into western Canada, the Pacific Northwest. And look at the high. You can see the high moving off the coast. There's a ridge. Very warm pattern here for mid-October on the East Coast. What this is showing is a more continued mild pattern. So let's keep it going. All right. This is the day 10 GFS ensembles. You can see the same sort of thing. Again, very consistent here. Very strong model agreement with these features in large scale. There's your polar vortex here, another one here, and look at the Pacific jet howling eastward right across the northern Pacific, the eastern Pacific, slamming into the west coast of North America. Very consistent pattern. And this is the 300 hours out from the GFS ensemble, and you can see that it's nothing's changed. We're not seeing any change in the pattern to produce any sort of cold air outbreak in south central Canada or the United States. So October is going to be a warm month here. This is a stubborn pattern which is setting up, and having the polar vortex in Alaska is bad for cold air in North America. It's bad. Now, if we look at the week 3 and week 4 CFS, we can see, wow, look how warm it is here. Holy mackerel. This is way above normal. Look at this stuff. Okay, this is for October 12th to the 18th, and this is for October 19th to 25th. So, Alaska's cold. See that, but not central United States, not south central Canada, not the eastern United States. No way, not in that pattern. And then the precipitation looks kind of dry, as you can see, over the Midwest and the East Coast as well. Now let's talk about the ice and the snow cover. Let's talk about that for a minute. This is the latest projection here. Now what I want to point out here is the black line. Okay, you have to look at this carefully. Let's take a look. The black line is right there. See it? See it? See it? Now what's happening is it's coming down, it's coming back up. This line, the two lines which match this closely, happens to be the winter of 2009-10, which was a great winter, and the winter of 2010-2011. Does it mean anything? Don't know yet, but it looks kind of promising. Now this is an actual snow cover comparison from Florida State folks between the snow cover over the last year. We can see in October, look, now the black line here represents actual, okay? The green line is climatology, you got it? So we can notice there's a big spike here in October in snow cover. Boom, it just took off suddenly. And then, but back in October of last year, it was much below normal. Now let's take a look at this in a bit more detail on this graph here. I've enlarged this. This was October 2012, you see it? And look, we were below normal. Then suddenly November turned around, boom! Huge explosion of much above normal snow cover across North America. There were forecasts in October that were saying it's going to be a completely useless winter last year because the snow cover was below normal October. October snow cover is not that big a deal. October, November together, that's a bigger deal. So especially November. So it can change. No reason to get upset over October, one way or the other. On the other hand, here is October right now. We can see a huge spike. So this is very different from what we see here. Totally different from last year. Vastly different from last year. Keep that in mind. Okay. Now let's take a look at what's going on over in Siberia. Now this is the European model for right now, September 28th, 29th in Europe. Monster storm east of Moscow. A lot of cold air here. Another one in eastern Siberia that you can see it. I put the low in here right here. Big ridge right here blocking it. So a lot of slow moving, a lot of cold air, and a lot of snow in central Russia from Moscow eastward. And this is day 5 on the European model. That system has moved across central Siberia into eastern Siberia. Another system's over the Black Sea. And then we can see here, again, 2 big storms in Siberia putting down a lot of snow. So this is off to a promising start here as well. And we can take a look at this. This is the actual snow cover on the ground right now in central and eastern Russia and Siberia. Not much, as you can see, but look what happens in the next 8 days. Boom! Ooh, that's nice. Yes, sirree, Bob. Big pickup in snow here. And this is the European of the next 7 days. A big pickup of snow here as well, showing the same sort of thing as well. So again, promising snow cover developing. Down the road, we'll see if it holds, but so far, it's off to a pretty good start. As a result of all this, as you can see, the official CFS forecast, it's almost for the month of September. Very warm. This is precipitation, I should say, quite dry, as you can see right in here. Very dry conditions throughout most of the United States, as you can see. And then the temperatures are also the same sort of thing. Unbelievably warm everywhere. But again, it's October. Enjoy it. It's going to be nice. The snow cover is building. No reason to get pessimistic yet. The water temperatures look okay. Having a positive NAO in October, it actually might be a good sign for the winter. So, again, it's October. No reason to freak out yet, folks. No reason at all. In fact, a lot of reasons. It's looking pretty decent in some areas. Anyway, that's This Week in Weather. I'm your host, meteorologist DT. I'll catch you on the Facebook page.